Hello everybody, welcome to Austin Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100. I've already done that. I gotta stop doing that. Hello everybody, welcome to Austin Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on the video to help it do better in the YouTube algorithm. So as it turns out, the Warriors, they're not screwed. It's a good thing no one made a video with 125,000 views suggesting such a thing. Anyways, the Golden State Warriors have won 3 consecutive games after going down 0-2 to the Sacramento Kings. When that's a big deal because statistically speaking, when teams go 0-2 down 0-2 in a series, I think it was something like 7% of the time they end up winning. I should have discounted that information given that if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure this is the case, that's exactly what happened in the 2022 NBA Finals, and then obviously the Golden State Warriors still managed to prevail. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't have leaned into that talking point so much. But let's talk about this game 5. To me, this is pretty declaratively like, yeah, this was the game that determined the series, because a very common thing people say is that it's not really a series until one team beats the other on their home floor. That's not necessarily true, because you can play out a series where every team wins on their home floor and then the team that was the higher seed will win because they got more home games, you know? But in this case, I did say in that video that if the Warriors were going to win this one, obviously they were going to have to get a win on the road, but also that I felt like depending on the timing of the win on the road, that could really determine where the series goes. And the timing would have been most ideal if they got one of these wins in the first 2 games, and definitely would have put less pressure on them. However, the next best timing would have been to win game 5 after the series was tied. So they did the right thing there, and I think in winning this game pretty much solidified the series to go in Golden State's favor. As for how they won this one in the way that they did, there was some ridiculous shot making late in this one. It was a pretty standard game between these two. I will say the consistency of the product in this series has been there. Like, there's been variance, of course, but you could show me a possession from game 5 and a possession from game 2, and I would only be able to tell the difference because of the jerseys, because a lot of these games have just been similar-ish in the feel, similar-ish in the box score, and most of the time the same players have been the ones going off. De'Aaron Fox has been inconsistent, as has Domantas Sabonis. Fox seems to, one way or the other, put points up whether or not it's efficient. I'm not going to knock him too much for this performance, though, because if I'm not mistaken, he had a broken finger on one of his hands. I don't know the exact details of that, but that's a fairly good reason. I've never shot a basketball with a broken finger. It sounds like it sucks. As for Sacramento's offense as a whole, Sabonis had a better game here. As I mentioned, he's had his inconsistency issues. Keegan Murray, after he was really good in game 4, had a great start in the first quarter, scoring 10 points, and then proceeded to miss every shot following that. Harrison Barnes was less abysmal than he was in game 4. Kevin Huerter, same thing. Malik Monk was also really good off of the bench. They got the contributions that were necessary to put up a lot of points, but defensively ultimately became Sacramento's Achilles heel, which is not exactly a shocking revelation. Really what stood out to me is a lot of open backdoor cuts, whether it be Gary Payton, Kevon Looney a few times. I think Andrew Wiggins got one. I know Draymond Green got a lot of easy dump-offs in the paint, which just should have been contested better than they were, if they were contested at all. Yeah, that was the big hole. Obviously, they hit some shots, but I'd say at least on the perimeter, the Kings did a good job of getting a hand up and making the shots difficult. Steph went 2 for 10 from 3. Obviously, Draymond's a standout performance here because he had 21 points, which for Draymond, that's like him having, that's like a good scoring player rather, having like 50 points. Draymond's a good player, but not good at putting the ball in the basket. 20 for him is like 50 for a normal player. But that being said, Klay Thompson was the one that stood out to me the most. I don't know if he necessarily had the most impact, but when I was watching this game, he hit some ridiculous three-pointers. Pulling up from way downtown, only having a split second of space, fading over his defender. He hit a ridiculous fadeaway out of the corner in the last like 2 minutes of this game that was a long 2-pointer, and it just looked like it had no damn business going in. He hit a 3 at the top of the key in the first half where he fell down practically, and I don't mean like he shot it and then fell down. I mean it looked like he started falling and then just threw it up and it went in. So there's that. Andrew Wiggins hit a really clutch fadeaway, and notably, something that was highlighted a ton is that Draymond Green hit a one-legged fadeaway. They were calling him Draymond Nowitzki. What I find interesting about that is that if you don't really know what early Draymond Green looked like, you might find that to be shocking. But as he said in the post-game interview, he has had that shot at points in his career. Specifically, if you take a look at Draymond's summer league footage when he was initially drafted, it was nothing but fadeaway jumpers. You would have thought you were watching a faster LaMarcus Aldridge. So yeah, there is that. As for the Warriors play outside of just Draymond and Steph and Clay, I guess, Jordan Poole was cool. The Warriors ended up going with a lineup that they had for Game 4 without Draymond Green because it proved effective, and I do think that dynamic did work. I don't know if that's something they're going to stick with in the long term. I would guess probably not, ultimately because Draymond did play more minutes than Jordan Poole, but maybe they want to have that dynamic going forward. I think it would depend entirely on if Draymond's ego was accepting of that, because if he's really going to put the winning of the team ahead of all, then maybe that is the move. Maybe it's not. I'm not entirely sure. It's been one game the dynamic worked here, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work everywhere else. But the main standout for me, I keep talking about all the main standouts. It was Draymond Green. Then it was probably Kevon Looney. 22 rebounds, like 7 assists. I feel like he had like 6 in the last game and like 7 before that. I knew Kevon Looney was a better passer than you would expect him to be if you weren't really paying attention, but I feel like he's averaging like 5 assists a game for this series, which is just bananas. And again, 22 rebounds. I'm pretty sure I saw it posted that Domantas Sabonis actually was given his trophy for winning the rebound title, like right before Kevon Looney had 22 on him. And honestly, if you ask me, as far as I am concerned, Kevon Looney has probably been the best player, or the best center rather, in this series. I was saying going into this one that I did think Looney would have a big impact because ultimately he was really their only consistent size and they would need that size on Sabonis. That has proved true, but I can't say that I expected him to be, if not the best player in the game, like definitely in the top 3 for 2 games in a row in very, very, very pivotal wins. So yeah, shout out to Kevon Looney for being awesome. As for the Kings as a whole, I don't think you can be, too upset if you're a Sacramento Kings fan. Of course, this isn't necessarily over, but things don't look good. And you're going to the Warriors' home floor for Game 6, which is also not good. But ultimately for the Kings, a good season, a positive season, far better than anything you've had before. So, looking competitive against a team that, to me, now that I've seen them in the postseason, definitely looks like it can be a championship contender. That's admirable and something to build upon. I think give them an off season to potentially round out that defense a little bit more, and we could definitely see a Sacramento Kings team that truly is a contender and not just a team that it's like a hot take to suggest they're a contender. But with that said, that's my thoughts on this game. That is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.